There comes a moment in life when you realize that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's necessary. The people who once had unlimited access to you may not understand why you've put distance between yourself and them. They may take offense, get angry, or even try to guilt you into believing you've done something wrong. But here's the truth. Setting boundaries isn't about hurting others, it's about honoring yourself. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and emotional well-being are precious, and not everyone is entitled to them. For too long, many of us have believed that saying yes when we really mean no makes us kind. We have equated self-sacrifice with love and overextension with loyalty. We've absorbed the idea that our worth is measured by how much we can give, often at the expense of our own well-being. But the reality is, every time we allow someone to drain us, manipulate us, or take more than we can offer, we are teaching them that our needs don't matter. And if we don't value our needs, how can we expect anyone else to? Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are gates that determine what and who is allowed into our lives. A healthy boundary is not about shutting people down. It's about creating space where relationships can thrive in a way that respects both parties. It is saying, I love you, but I cannot be your emotional dumping ground. Or I care about you, but I need to protect my own energy too. It is choosing yourself without apology. Some will understand and respect your boundaries. Others will take offense. The ones who get mad are often the ones who benefited the most from your lack of limits. They were comfortable with your overgiving. They liked having access to your time, energy, and emotional labor without question. And when that access is revoked, they mistake your self-care for selfishness. But their anger is not your responsibility to soothe. Their discomfort is not your burden to fix. If someone truly cares for you, they will respect the boundaries you set, even if they don't like them. Love is not about control. It is not about demanding access at all costs. It is about mutual respect and understanding. A person who values you will want what's best for you, not just what's best for them. And if someone cannot handle the fact that you are choosing yourself, that's not a reflection of your character. It's a reflection of theirs. The truth is, setting boundaries will make some people uncomfortable, especially if they have been used to a version of you that always bends, always accommodates, and always puts their needs above your own. But your responsibility is not to make others comfortable at your own expense. Your responsibility is to live a life that honors your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The right people will adjust. The wrong ones will leave. And that's okay. There is deep freedom in realizing that you are not obligated to explain, justify, or negotiate your boundaries with anyone who refuses to honor them. You don't have to feel guilty for stepping away from relationships that deplete you. You are not a bad person for choosing peace over chaos. You are simply someone who understands that self-respect is the foundation of a healthy life. So stand firm in your decisions. Let go of the need to be liked by everyone. Release the fear that setting limits makes you unkind. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly matter will respect your choices. And the ones who don't, well, they were never really in your corner to begin with. For so many of us, guilt has been woven into the fabric of our decisions, especially when it comes to choosing ourselves. We have been conditioned to believe that prioritizing our peace, walking away from toxic relationships, or simply saying no means we are being selfish. But here's the truth. Guilt is not the price you have to pay for freedom. You do not have to carry the weight of someone else's disappointment just because you chose to honor your own well-being. Guilt is a powerful emotion, and often it is used as a tool of control. People will guilt you into staying in situations that deplete you because it benefits them. They will say things like, after everything I've done for you, or you've changed, or you don't even care anymore. What they're really saying is, I don't like that I can no longer manipulate you. But their disappointment is not your responsibility to fix. You are not responsible for how someone reacts to your boundaries, your growth, or your decision to walk away from dysfunction. We often mistake guilt for responsibility. We think that if someone is hurt by our choices, it must mean we've done something wrong. But there is a difference between hurting someone and harming them. Setting boundaries may hurt someone's expectations of who you used to be, but it does not harm them. Choosing distance may hurt someone who benefited from your overextension, but it does not harm them. Harm is intentional. Harm is cruelty. Boundaries, on the other hand, are an act of self-preservation. If guilt is the only thing keeping you in a relationship, a friendship, or a situation, that is not love. That is obligation. Love is given freely, not extracted through emotional debt. Love does not ask you to betray yourself to keep the peace. Love does not demand that you stay small, exhausted, or emotionally drained just so someone else can be comfortable. True love respects freedom, and any relationship that requires you to suffer in order to prove your loyalty is not a relationship worth keeping. It's important to recognize where your guilt is coming from. Is it coming from a genuine mistake that you need to make right? Or is it coming from a place of emotional conditioning where you've been taught that your needs are secondary to everyone else's? If it's the latter, then that guilt is misplaced. It is not your job to make everyone happy. It is not your job to sacrifice your own well-being so that others never have to feel discomfort. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to put yourself first. When you finally begin choosing yourself, the guilt may not disappear overnight. It may linger because it is familiar. It may whisper to you that you're doing something wrong. But over time, as you experience the peace that comes with honoring your needs, you will realize that guilt was never meant to be the cost of your happiness. You will see that the people who truly love you want you to be free, not burdened by obligation. Freedom requires courage. It requires stepping into the discomfort of being misunderstood. It requires letting go of the idea that you owe people unlimited access to your time, energy, and presence. But once you taste that freedom, once you understand that you do not have to carry guilt as a badge of honor, you will never want to go back to the life you had before. You will never again allow someone else's disappointment to dictate your choice. So let go of the guilt, let go of the idea that you have to explain yourself to people who have already decided that your boundaries are an inconvenience. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not cruel for protecting your energy. You are simply someone who understands that freedom is a gift you give yourself, and you do not have to pay for it with guilt. There is a painful but necessary truth about setting boundaries. The people who once benefited from your absence in your own life will resent the moment you choose distance. These are the ones who grew accustomed to your overextension, your self-sacrifice, your constant availability. They never had to question whether you would show up because you always did, even at the cost of your own well-being. And now that you've chosen to pull back to protect your time and energy, they don't see it as self-respect. They see it as betrayal. Some people were perfectly comfortable with a version of you that always prioritized them over yourself. They liked the friend who always dropped everything to listen to their problems, but never had time to express their own. They liked the family member who always said yes, even when it meant neglecting their own needs. They liked the partner who gave endlessly without asking for anything in return. When you decide to reclaim your time and energy, their frustration isn't really about you. It's about the fact that they can no longer use you in the way they once did. It's an uncomfortable realization, but not everyone in your life truly loved you. They loved what you provided. They loved the convenience of your presence, the reliability of your support, and the comfort of knowing you would always be there. And when you step back, when you choose yourself, they take it personally. They see your distance as a rejection of them rather than an affirmation of yourself. But the truth is, anyone who values you only when you are available to them does not value you at all. The resentment you may face is not about your actions, but about their entitlement. They feel entitled to your time, your energy, and your emotional labor as if it were something they were owed. When that entitlement is no longer met, they react not with understanding, not with respect, but with frustration, anger, or manipulation. They may try to guilt you, accuse you of changing, or frame your distance as an act of selfishness, but their resentment is not proof that you are doing something wrong. It is proof that you are giving too much for too long. This is why setting boundaries is difficult. It forces you to see people for who they really are, not who you hoped they would be. It reveals the relationships that were built on mutual care and those that were built on convenience. And while it is painful to realize that some people only valued you when you were giving them something, it is also freeing, because once you see it, you can never unsee it. You can never go back to being the person who gives endlessly without expecting respect in return. Let them be mad. Let them talk. Let them twist the story to make you the villain if that's what helps them cope with the fact that they no longer have the same access to you. Their reaction is not your burden to carry. Your only job is to continue honoring yourself. Because the people who truly love you will respect your decision, even if they don't like it. The people who are meant to be in your life will adjust to the version of you that knows their worth. And the ones who refuse to, they were never meant to stay. You do not need to apologize for choosing distance. You do not need to explain yourself to those who have already decided that your boundaries are an inconvenience. Your worth was never tied to how much you could endure, how much you could give, or how much space you could take up in other people's lives. Your worth is inherent, and the right people will recognize it even when you are no longer constantly available to them. So, release the guilt. Release the need to be understood by those who have no interest in understanding you. Stand firm in your choice to protect your peace, because the ones who resent your distance were never truly invested in your presence. They were only invested in what they could take from you. And now you are finally free. There is a moment in life when you stop reacting to the things that once drained you. The endless arguments, the guilt trips, the attempts to pull you back into chaos. They no longer shake you the way they once did. People who were used to your explanation, your justifications, your emotional labor suddenly find themselves met with something different, indifference, and they don't like it. They mistake your clarity for coldness. They call you heartless because you no longer engage in their dysfunction. But here's the truth. Indifference is not cruelty. It is clarity. Clarity comes when you finally understand that not everything deserves your energy. It is knowing that you do not have to fight every battle, respond to every insult, or defend yourself to people who have already decided their narrative about you. It is the deep realization that your peace is more valuable than someone else's need for control. And once you reach that point, you don't argue, you don't explain, you don't try to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. You simply move on. Those who benefited from your emotional reactions will resent your clarity the most. They were used to you being invested in their opinions, their drama, their expectations of who you should be. They relied on your willingness to argue, to overextend, to prove your loyalty through suffering. When you stop engaging, they scramble for a new way to keep you entangled. They might call you cold, detached, or selfish. But what they really mean is you're no longer easy to manipulate. Indifference doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about yourself to keep engaging in things that bring you nothing but stress and pain. It means you have finally drawn the line between what is worth your attention and what is not. It means you have chosen your own well-being over the need to be understood by those who have no interest in understanding you. And that is not cruel. That is necessary. The world teaches us that love means endless patience, endless forgiveness, and endless second chances. But real love also includes boundaries. Real love knows when to walk away. Real love recognizes that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for yourself and for others is to let go. Choosing not to engage in toxic cycles is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for protecting yourself is someone who benefited from your lack of protection. There will be people who try to pull you back in, who test your indifference just to see if they still have power over you. They will poke at your past wounds, remind you of old arguments, and try to stir up emotions that you have worked hard to detach from. But clarity allows you to see through it. You recognize their patterns, you no longer react. And when they realize that their usual tactics no longer work, they will either respect your boundaries or remove themselves entirely. Either way, you win. You do not have to justify your peace. You do not have to explain why you no longer respond to people who only seek to drain you. The most powerful response to manipulation, to drama, to toxic behavior is no response at all. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Indifference is not a lack of love, it is a commitment to your own healing. And those who mistake your clarity for cruelty were never interested in your well-being to begin with. So let them think what they want, let them say what they will. You are not here to meet the expectations of those who refuse to respect your growth. You are here to live a life that honors your peace, your boundaries, and your self-respect. And if that looks like indifference to them, so be it. Because at the end of the day, clarity is freedom, and freedom is worth far more than anyone's opinion of you. One of the hardest but most liberating truths you will ever learn is this: you are not responsible for how people react to your boundaries, your growth, or your choices. For too long, many of us have carried the weight of other people's emotions as if they were our own. We have twisted ourselves into versions that would make others comfortable, apologized for things that weren't our fault, and softened our truth to avoid conflict. But the moment you realize that their reactions are theirs to manage, not yours to fix, you begin to walk in true freedom. People will always have opinions about your choices, especially when those choices no longer serve their interests. If you set a boundary, some will respect it and others will push against it. If you say no, some will understand and others will take offense. But their feelings about your decisions are a reflection of them, not you. You are not cruel for enforcing limits. You are not selfish for prioritizing your well-being. You are simply someone who has recognized that peace is more valuable than approval. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that we must take responsibility for other people's emotions. We were taught to people please, to avoid upsetting others, and to keep the peace even at the expense of our own discomfort. But real peace doesn't come from making everyone else happy. It comes from knowing that you are living in alignment with your truth, and the people who truly love and respect you will adjust. The ones who don't, they were only interested in you as long as you met their expectations. It is not your job to manage their disappointment. When someone reacts negatively to your boundaries, it is not proof that you have done something wrong. It is proof that they were benefiting from your lack of them. If someone becomes angry because you no longer engage in their toxicity, that is their problem to solve. If someone feels betrayed because you stop sacrificing yourself for their comfort, that is their burden to carry. You do not have to shrink yourself just so others don't feel small around you. Some people will try to guilt you into believing that you owe them unlimited access to your time, energy, or emotional labor. They will tell you that you have changed, that you used to be more available, that you used to be more patient. But growth is not a betrayal. It is not your responsibility to remain in relationships or situations that no longer align with who you are becoming. The people who genuinely care about you will not require you to diminish yourself in order to stay in their lives. The truth is, people are responsible for their own emotional regulation. Just as you must learn to manage your own reactions, they must learn to manage theirs. If they choose to be angry, resentful, or offended by your choices, that is their work to do, not yours. You do not have to explain yourself repeatedly. You do not have to make them understand. You do not have to bend over backward to prove that your intentions were pure. Your boundaries are valid even if they do not approve of them. Walking in this kind of clarity will not always be easy. There will be moments when you second guess yourself, when you wonder if you should have softened your stance just a little, when you feel the urge to go back to old patterns of appeasement. But remember this, the only people who will truly resent your growth are those who benefited from your lack of it. And if someone cannot respect the choices you make for your own well-being, that is all the answer you need about where they belong in your life. So release the guilt. Release the need to manage other people's emotions. Release the idea that you must carry their disappointment as if it were your own. You are allowed to choose yourself without apology. You are allowed to walk away from anything that no longer serves your peace. And most importantly, you are allowed to let people feel however they choose to feel, because their reactions are not your responsibility.